I was bleeding the coolant system on the Patrol. I decided to take a look underneath to see if there are any leaks. And what I saw was a giant pool of oil. There was a giant pool of oil under there. It was at that very moment that I knew. I cocked up. A few videos ago, I was cleaning the intake ports on the Patrol, during which I pulled the rocker cover off. Here's what happened. I've got the rocker cover off now, so I'm just inspecting the gasket to see whether it's alright to be reused. It's still got a fair bit of flexibility in it, so we'll just whack it back in and see if she leaks or not. Well, I discovered the answer to the question that I never actually asked. Now it's time to move at the speed of 1,000 gazelles and get that rocker cover off. As you saw, I've now got the rocker cover off. Now, yesterday I ordered a new gasket kit for it. Now, luckily they offered overnight parts from Japan, so it rocked up this morning. So we'll just get that opened up. So we've obviously got our new gasket, which will replace the old one. In the kit also, we've got these little rubber washers with I'm pretty sure it's got a metal insert in there. Feels pretty hard. So that basically goes on the bolts. So you pull this little metal cap off. I'll try and show a little bit of a close-up in a minute. Then you just screw off the old rubbers and simply place on the new rubber, like so. Then you can place the metal cap back on and it's good to go. They also include this rubber condom, so that's for your oil cap. So we'll go on and get these all replaced now. Alright, so I've got the rocker cover on, I've got everything hooked up. I'm just leaving the intercooler off for the moment. So we'll now just start the car and check for any leaks. Hello? Are you leaking? Are you leaking? Are you leaking? Are you leaking? Well, the rear main seal is leaking, but that sounds like a future Bronson problem. Alright, so there's no leaks coming from the new rocker cover gasket, so that's good news. However, I've just discovered at some point I've broken the EGT probe wire. So instead of buying a new knockoff Defi EGT probe, I've decided to buy what pretty much looks like the same thing. It's this unit here. So this is a JRP unit. It looks, like I said, almost identical to the knockoff Defi that I bought, which almost looks the same as the real Defi. And there were two main reasons why I decided to buy this JRP unit instead of just buying a new probe. One of them was, I discovered that JRP actually sells these OBD2 ports. So these plug into their multi-gauge unit and you can obviously plug that into your port in your car. Now, this is a 2006 Patrol, so it doesn't actually have an OBD2 port. However, it does have a 14-pin OBD port. So I've also bought this adapter here, so it'll adapt the two together. Now, when I was talking to JRP, they said it's a 50-50 chance as to whether it's going to work or not. So I thought it'd be cool to try it out and see if it actually does work or not. And the second main reason is because the JRP unit actually supports this. Now this sensor right here is an air intake sensor. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting that into my intercooler, and it's going to be able to tell me what the intake temp is actually when it's going through the intercooler, or before the intercooler and after the intercooler. Now, unfortunately, they don't actually allow you to have two of these sensors in the one unit. So what I've done is I've bought two bungs to weld to the intercooler, one on each side. And I've also bought a capping off plug that I'll screw into one. And I'll be able to swap this over from side to side just to get an idea as to how the intercooler is actually performing. It's not ideal having to switch it over from side to side, but I figure it's better than nothing, and it'll at least give me an idea on the efficiency of the cooler. I'm not going to be doing a step-by-step install on this JRP unit because everyone's done it on the internet, but instead I'm going to be actually finding out what's interchangeable between the two units. So I've got at least one sensor that I want to keep from the Defi just because I can't be bothered pulling it out. So we'll see whether that plugs into the JRP unit or not. So I'll start by welding in those two bungs into the intercooler, and then we'll get on to swapping all the gear over. Well, that was pretty much a success. I just swapped over the control boxes, plugged in the new sensors, so the new EGT and the new air intake sensor, and I also plugged in the old Defi sensors for the water temp and also the boost. Now, unfortunately, it didn't start with the OBD2 sensor, so that looks like that's a no-go for any TD42 Patrol. However, once I plugged all the power wires in, it just started straight up and it works beautifully. Now that I've got the new JRP unit all up and running and all the wires tidied up now, because they definitely were not before, now I'm going to be changing the wastegate spring for my turbo. So this was at the request of my tuner. So my tuner requested the hardest spring that Mamba sell, So they got different color springs for different rated pressures, and this one being the hardest one that they sell, this is rated at 2 bar, so she might be a bit of a boosty boy. So I'll now move back into the engine bay and we'll get this thing sorted. I've just swapped over the wastegate springs and I've just mounted the boost tee because I thought it'd be a better idea than having it cable tied like it was. I've still got a few things to finalise on it to neaten things up, but for now I'm just going to take it for a drive and see if I need to adjust the fuel or boost or anything just to make it so it's safe until I drive it up to the tuner. First stop on the side of the road because once it hit 28 pound I hear this psh. So I'll start looking under the bonnet, and where the air line goes into the boost sensor, it's come off. So I'll just get that whack back on and be on my way. Well, I'm back in the workshop again. I ended up bringing the car back here to put a cable tie on the hose for the boost sensor. Then took the car back out again and everything was great. No hoses blowing off, no nothing. Car was driving awesome. On the freeway at about 110 Ks, it was sitting at roughly 330 degrees Celsius on the EGTs. And the most I could get that up to was about 470. So I think that's pretty safe for me to be able to drive it up to the tuner until he gets his hands on it. The water temp was also good. It was sitting on about 78 degrees on the freeway, and also the boost was getting up to 29 PSI at the most. As for the air intake temp, that was sitting on about 39 degrees on the freeway, so I have no idea whether that's good or bad. I assume it's higher than what you're going to have with a front mount intercooler because you're obviously getting that heat soak from the engine with it being a top mount. As for the JRP unit and the knockoff DEFI sensors, the JRP OBD2 plug, that didn't work like I mentioned before. So if you've got a factory TD42 Patrol, don't bother getting it, won't work. You just need to hardwire it to the power. The knockoff DEFI water temp sensor and the boost sensor, they both work perfectly with the JRP unit. And obviously the JRP EGT probe and the JRP air intake sensor, they both work flawlessly with the unit as you'd expect. I kept the DC power lines from the knockoff DEFI and the JRP unit runs off that perfectly as well. As you saw, I just switched over both of the screens and the JRP unit just bolted straight in. So overall, everything was nice and compatible and an easy swap over. I definitely recommend the JRP unit because everything just seems like it's real good quality and it just works. I'd appreciate it if you could drop a comment down below and let me know what you thought of this video with me throwing a few smaller jobs into the one video. And if you liked them, I'll keep doing these smaller job videos. If you didn't like it, well, I won't do them anymore. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Hit that like and subscribe button if you think I've earned it, and I'll catch you on the next one.